even though there are questions left, we'll read today from the teaching of Wang Po and writings of Krishnamurti, as well as a dialogue, a group dialogue held in Ojai. It never hurts to have questions left unanswered. Since this is copyrighted material, the recording today will not be available for sale. Three books we're reading from is Zen Teaching of Wang Po, translated by John Blofeld, Krishnamurti's Notebook, and The Wholeness of Life, Krishnamurti. Wang Po was a Chinese Zen teacher who lived in the 10th century, or into the 10th century, I believe. And the dialogue and sayings were recorded by his disciple, who was a Buddhist scholar and also the governor of the province where Wang Po taught. We'll begin with a dialogue between Pei Su, the disciple, and Wang Po, which happened just about 1,000 years ago. Questioner: what is the way and how must it be followed? Wang Po: what sort of thing do you suppose the way to be, that you should wish to follow it? Questioner: what instructions have the masters everywhere given for meditation practice and the study of the truth? Wang Po: words used to attract the dull of wit are not to be relied on. Questioner: if those teachings were meant for the dull-witted, I have yet to hear what truth has been taught to those of really high capacity. Wang Po: if there are really people of high capacity, where could they find people to follow? If they seek from within themselves, they will find nothing tangible. How much less can they find a teaching worthy of their attention elsewhere? Do not look to what is called the true teaching by preachers, for what sort of true teaching could that be? Questioner: if that is so, should we not seek for anything at all? Wang Po: by conceding this, you would save yourself a lot of mental effort. Questioner: but in this way, everything would be eliminated. There cannot just be nothing. Wang Po: who called it nothing? Who was this fellow? But you wanted to seek for something. Questioner. Since there is no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? Wangpo. Not to seek is to rest tranquil. Who told you to eliminate anything? Look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminate it? Void not just being vacuous emptiness, but everything without name, label, or reaction, good or bad, like or dislike. That's what is referred to as the void, emptiness. Emptiness within of the judge, the choosing observer. Look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminate it? Questioner says, if I could reach this Dharma, he says here, truth, true teaching, would it be like the void? Wangpo, morning and night, morning and night I have explained to you that the void is both one and the manifold. I said this as a temporary expedient, but you are building up concepts from it. Questioner, do you mean that we should not form concepts as human beings normally do? Wangpo, I have not prevented you, but concepts are related to the senses, and when feeling takes place and concepts are formed, wisdom is shut out. Questioner, then should we avoid any feeling in relation to the truth or the true teaching? Wangpo, where no feeling arises, who can say that you are right? Questioner, why do you speak as though I was mistaken in all the questions I have asked your reverence? Wangpo, you're a man who doesn't understand what is said to him. What is all this about being mistaken? Questioner, up to now you have refuted everything which has been said. You have done nothing to point out the true Dharma or the truth or the true teaching to us. Wangpo, in the true Dharma or in truth there is no confusion, but you produce confusion by such questions. What sort of true Dharma can you go seeking for? Questioner, since the confusion arises from my questions, what will your reverence's answer be? Wangpo, observe things as they are and don't pay attention to other people. There are some people just like mad dogs barking at everything that moves, even barking when the wind stirs among the grass and leaves. Questioner, illusion can hide from us our own mind, but up to now you have not taught us how to get rid of illusion. Wangpo, the arising and the elimination of illusion are both illusory or idea. Illusion is not something rooted in reality. It exists because of your dualistic thinking. If you will only cease indulging in opposed concepts such as ordinary and enlightened, illusion will cease of itself. And then if you still want to destroy it wherever it may be, you will find that there is not a hair's breadth left of anything on which to lay hold. This is the meaning of, quote, I will let go with both hands, for then I shall certainly discover the truth in my own mind. Wangpo. What is called supreme perfect wisdom implies that there is really nothing whatever to be attained. If you're able to understand this, you will realize that the way of the Buddhas and the way of the devils are equally wide of the mark. The original, pure, glistening universe is neither square nor round, big nor small. It is without any such distinctions as long and short. It is beyond attachment and activity, ignorance and enlightenment. You must see clearly that there is really nothing at all. The great chillicosms, numberless as grains of sand, are mere bubbles. All wisdom and all holiness are but streaks of lightning. None of them have the reality of mind. Mind is one. How can it lack a single hair of anything? Wangpo. When we talk of the knowledge I, in quotes, may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, and my moral way of living, our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth, for all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous to you as the way of demons. And later on, full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. The approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. If you wish to understand, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind is purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. Not till your thoughts cease all their branching here and there, not till you abandon all thoughts of seeking for something, will you be on the right road. Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding will you awake to the truth. When you happen upon someone who has no understanding, you must claim to know nothing. He may be delighted by his discovery of some way to enlightenment, Yet if you allow yourselves to be persuaded by him, you will experience no delight at all, but suffer both sorrow and disappointment. Even if you do obtain from him some trifling method, it will only be a thought-constructed thing having nothing to do with truth. Truth is something never lost, even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past. Not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha. Your sole concern should be, as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. But how, asks the questioner, can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Because it's not the making of distinctions, it's the me that wants and doesn't want, fears and grabs, on the basis of memory. How can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Wang Po says, by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lips, and that a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also, by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other. Do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Only by acting thus can you earn the title of a liberated one. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has gone, the present is a fleeting moment, and the future is yet to come, or is not yet come. When you practice meditation, sit in the proper position, stay perfectly tranquil, and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. This alone is what is called liberation. Ah, be diligent, be diligent. From the Wholeness of Life, we will read part of the first dialogue. Krishnamurti talks with a small group at Ojai. There were some 12 people there, I read, drawn from the Krishnamurti schools and foundations in Canada, England, India, and USA. We've read this in the past a couple of times, and those people who have talked to me about it found it most interesting and asked whether it could be read again. Questioner. Can we discuss the relation between Krishnamurti's teaching and truth? Another questioner. Is there such a thing as a teaching at all, or is there only truth? Krishnamurti. Is it the expression of truth? There are two things involved. The speaker is either talking out of the silence of truth, or he is talking out of the noise of an illusion, which he considers to be the truth. Questioner, that is what most people do. Okay, so what is it that he is doing? Questioner, there could be a confusion between the word and truth. Okay, no, the word is not the truth. That's why we said either he is talking out of the silence of truth or out of the noise of illusion. Questioner. But because one feels that he is speaking out of the silence of truth, there is a greater possibility for the word to be taken as truth. Because one feels that he is speaking out of the silence of truth, there is a greater possibility for the word to be taken as truth. Okay, let's go slowly, for this is interesting. Who is going to judge? Who is going to see the truth of the matter? The listener? The reader? You who know Indian scriptures, Buddhism, the Upanishads, etc., you are familiar with them and know most of the contents of all that. Are you capable of judging? How shall we find out? You hear him talking about these things, and you wonder if he is really speaking out of this extraordinary silence of truth, or as a reaction, and from a conditioned childhood, and so on. That is to say, either he is talking out of his conditioning or out of the other. How will you find out? How will you approach this problem? Questioner. Is it possible for me to find out if what is meeting that teaching is the noise within myself? Okay, that's what I'm asking you. What is the criterion, the measure that you apply so you can say, yes, that is it, or do you say, I don't know? I am asking what you do. Or don't you know, but are examining, investigating. Not whether he's speaking out of silence or conditioning, but you're watching the truth of what he is saying. You would want to know whether he was speaking out of this or out of that. I would want to know. I would want to know whether he was speaking out of this or out of that. But as I don't know, I'm going to listen to what he is saying and see if it is true. Questioner. But what sees it as true? Okay. Say one is fairly alive to things. One listens to this man and one wants to find out whether what he says is mere words or the truth. Questioner. When I have come to the conclusion that it is the truth, then I'm already not listening. Okay, no, I don't know. My life is concerned with this problem, not just for a few years or a few days. I want to know the truth of this matter. Is he speaking out of experience or from knowledge or not out of any of these things? Most people speak out of knowledge, so we're asking that question. I don't know how you would find out. I'll tell you what I would do. I would put his personality, his influence, all that completely aside. Because I don't want to be influenced. I'm skeptical, doubtful, so I am very careful. I listen to him and I don't say I know or I don't know, but I'm skeptical. I want to find out. Questioner. Skeptical means you are inclined to doubt it, which is already a bias. Okay, oh no. I am skeptical in the sense that I don't accept everything that is being said. Questioner. But you lean towards doubting, its negation. Oh no, says Kay. I would rather use the word doubt in the sense of questioning. Let's put it that way. I say to myself, am I questioning out of my prejudice? This question has never been put to me before. I'm exploring it. I would put everything aside. All the personal reputation, charm, looks, this and that. I'm not going to accept or reject. I'm going to listen to find out. Am I prejudiced? Am I listening to him with all the knowledge that I've gathered about religion, of what the books have said, or what other people have said, or what my own experience tells me? Questioner says, no, I may be listening to him precisely because I have rejected all that. Okay, have I rejected it? Or am I listening to him with all that? If I have rejected that, then I'm listening. Then I'm listening very carefully to what he has to say. Questioner. Or am I listening with everything that I already know of him? Okay, I have said I have put away his reputation. I'm listening to him with the knowledge that I have acquired through books. Am I listening to him with the knowledge I have acquired through books, through experience? And therefore I am comparing, judging, evaluating. Then I can't find out whether what he is saying is the truth. But is it possible for me to put aside all that? I'm passionately interested to find out. So, for the time being, while I'm listening at least, I will put aside everything I have known. Then I proceed. I want to know, but I'm not going to be easily persuaded, pulled into something by argument, cleverness, logic. Now am I capable of listening to what he is saying with complete abandonment of the past? It comes to that. Are you? Then my relationship to him is entirely different. Then I am listening out of silence. This is really a very interesting question. I've answered it for myself. There are a dozen of us here. How would you answer it? How do you know that what he is talking about is the truth? We're skipping. Some people can read the whole thing by themselves. It's very interesting. Someone says you have to be free of deceiving yourself to see that. What is the truth? Okay, again, forgive me for asking, how do you know he is speaking the truth? Or is he deceiving himself and is caught in an illusion which gives him a feeling that he is telling the truth? What do you answer? Questioner, one goes into it oneself. One cannot accept it without going deeply into it. Okay, but one can deceive oneself so appallingly. Okay. Questioner, you go through the layers of all those deceptions and beyond them. Krishnamurti, if I were a stranger, I might say, you have listened to this man for a long time. How do you know he's telling the truth? How do you know anything about it? Questioner, I could say that I have looked at what you have said, and each time I was able to test it, to see it if it was right. I have not found anything which was contradictory. Okay, no, the question was, how do you find out the truth? Not about contradiction, logic, all that. One's own sensitivity, one's own investigation, one's own delving, is that enough? Questioner. If one goes all the way, if one goes through all possible self-deceptions. And another questioner says, and then goes so far as to say that in the moment when one is listening, I don't know how deeply, but listening at all, one feels there is a change in oneself. It may not be a total revolution, but there is a change. Okay, that can happen when you go for a walk and look at the mountains and are quiet. And when you come back to your home, certain things have taken place. You follow what I'm saying? Yes. Another questioner says, we listen to people who speak from knowledge, and we listen to you, and there's something totally different, the non-verbal. Okay, have you answered the question? Questioner, to myself, I have. I have listened to scores of people, and I listen to Kay. I don't know what it is, but it is totally different. Another one says, that means there is a ring of truth in it. Someone else says, there are people who imply that in some way you are deceiving yourself. They do not say it, they do not see it that way. Another questioner says, there was a man who wrote to me and asked if I agreed with everything Krishnamurti said. Quote, didn't he tell you that you should doubt everything he said? Unquote. The only way I could answer was to say, look, to me it is self-evident. Okay, it may be self-evident to you and yet an illusion. It is such a dangerous, delicate thing. Questioner. I think that for thought it is not at all possible to be sure about this matter. It is typical for thought that it wants to be sure that it is not deceiving itself, that it is listening to truth. Thought will never give up that question, and it is right for thought never to give up questioning. But thought cannot touch it, cannot know about it. Okay. Dr. Bohm and I had a discussion of this kind in a different way. If I remember rightly, we said, is there such a silence which is not the word, which is not imagined or induced? Is there such a silence? And is it possible to speak out of that silence? Questioner. The question was whether the words are coming from perception, from silence, or from the memory. Yes, says Kay. Questioner. The question is whether the words that are used are communicating directly and coming out of the emptiness, out of the silence, or not. Okay, that is the real question. Questioner, as we used to say, like the drum which vibrates to the emptiness within. Okay, yes. And then later, can we say that truth, there's a questioner who says, can we say that truth is in the silence out of which the teaching comes? Okay, but I want to know how the silence comes. I might invent it. I may have worked to have that silent mind for years, conditioned it, kept it in a cage, and then say, marvelous, I'm silent. There is that danger. Logic is a danger. Thought is a danger. So I see all the dangers around me. I'm caught in all these dangers, and I want to find out if what that man is saying is the truth. Questioner. I think there is no way or procedure to find that out. There is no prescription. I cannot tell anybody how to find out. I can say that I feel it with all my being, that something is true, and maybe I can convey it through my life. But I cannot convince anybody through words or reason or any method. And in the same way, I cannot convince myself. Kay says, Dr. Bohm is a scientist, a physicist, he is clear-thinking, logical. Suppose someone goes to him and asks, is what Krishnamurti says the truth? How is he going to answer? Someone says, doesn't Dr. Bohm or anybody have to go beyond the limitation of logic? Okay, somebody comes to him and asks, tell me, I really want to know from you, please tell me if that man is speaking the truth. Questioner, but you are then saying use the instrument of logic to find out. Okay, no. I'm very interested because I've heard so many people who are illogical and careless say that he's speaking the truth. But I go to a serious thinker, careful with the use of words, and ask, please tell me if he's telling the truth, not some crooked thing covered up. How is he going to answer me? Somebody says, the other day when that man said to you, you may be caught in a groove, you looked at it first. What happened then? Okay, I looked at it in several ways, and I don't think I'm caught in a groove. But yet I might be. So, after examining it very carefully, I left it. Something takes place when you leave it alone after an examination. Something new comes into it. Now I'm asking you, please tell me if that man is speaking the truth. And someone says, for me it is a reality. I can't communicate it to you. This is what I have found out. And you have to find out for yourself. You have to test it out in your own mind. Okay, but you may be leading me up the garden path. Question, that is all I can say. I can't really communicate it. Okay, you may be up the garden path yourself. He says, but then why should I go to Dr. Bohm, much as I respect him? Okay, how do you, in your heart of hearts, as a human being, know that he is speaking the truth? I want to feel it. I object to logic and all that. I have been through that before. Therefore, if all that is not the way, then what is? And someone says, there are people who are very clever, who speak of things which are very similar, who have grasped things intellectually very well, and then say they are speaking from truth. Okay, yes, they are repeating in India now, you are the world. That is the latest catchword. Questioner, in order to communicate that, I have to speak out of the silence you were referring to. Okay, no, please be simple with me. I want to know if Krishnamurti is speaking the truth. Dr. Bohm has known Krishnamurti for several years. He has a good trained mind. So I go to him and ask him. Someone says, all he can say is, I know this man, this is how he affects me. He has changed my life. And suddenly a note may be struck in the other one. Okay, no, I want it straight from the horse's mouth. And someone says, well, Dr. Bohm is here, let him tell us. And then question of it, probably him. I think I could say to him that when we did discuss these things, it was from the emptiness, and that I felt it was a direct perception. Okay, yes. Is direct perception unrelated to logic? Question, it does not come from logic. Okay, but you are logical all the same. Questioner, that may come later, not at that moment. Okay, so you're telling me I have found out that man is telling the truth because I had a direct perception, an insight into what he's saying. And he says, yes. Okay, now be careful, because I've heard a disciple of some guru say exactly the same thing. And he says, I've also heard a guru say this, but a little later, by looking at it logically, I saw the thing was nonsense. When I was looking at the fact and the logic, I saw it did not fit. So I would say that in addition to direct perception, I've constantly examined this logically. Okay, so you are saying that perception has not blinded you, and with that perception goes logic also. Yes, logic and fact. Okay. Isn't there a terrible danger in this? Questioner says, I'm sure there's a danger. Okay, so you're now saying that one has to walk in danger. Yes. Okay, now I begin to understand what you're saying. One has to move in a field which is full of danger, full of snakes and pitfalls. Questioner, which means one has to be tremendously awake. Okay, so I have learned from talking to him that this is a very dangerous thing. He has said you can only understand whether K is speaking the truth if you're really prepared to walk in a field which is full of pitfalls. Is that right? Yes. Okay, it is a field which is full of mines, the razor's edge path. Are you prepared to do that? One's whole being says, be secure. Question, that is the only way to do anything. Okay. I have learned to be aware of the dangers around me and also to face danger all the time, and therefore to have no security. The inquirer might say, this is too much, and go away. So this is what I want to get at. Can the mind, which has been conditioned for centuries to be secure, abandon that and say, I will walk into danger? This is what we're saying. It is logical, but in a sense it is illogical. Questioner, in principle, that is the way all science works. Okay, that is right. So it also means I don't trust anybody, any guru, any prophet. I trust my wife because she loves me and I love her, but that is irrelevant. Questioner, the word danger has to be explained too. From one point it is dangerous, and from another it isn't. I have to investigate. My conditioning is very dangerous. Okay, so we are saying, I have walked in danger, and I have found the logic of this danger. Through the perception of danger, I have found the truth of what K is saying. And there is no security, no safety in this, whereas all the others give me safety. Questioner, security becomes the ultimate danger. Okay, of course. Questioner, what you have described is actually the scientific approach. They say every statement must be in danger of being false. It has been put that way. Okay, that is perfectly right. I have learned a lot. Have you? These are the last two selections from Krishnamurti's notebook, which were written in the 60s, And these last selections were written in India. The trees were bare, every leaf had fallen off, even the thin, delicate stems were breaking off. The cold had been too much for them. There were other trees which kept their leaves, but they were not too green. Some of them were turning brown. It was an exceptionally cold winter. There was heavy snow all along the lower ranges of the Himalayas, several feet thick, and in the plains a few hundred miles away it was quite cold. There was heavy frost on the ground, and flowers were not blooming. The lawns were burnt. There were a few roses whose color filled the little garden, and the yellow pansies. But on the roads and public places you saw the poor, wrapped up in torn, filthy rags, bare-legged, their heads covered up, their dark faces hardly showing. The women had every kind of colored cloth on them, dirty, with silver bangles or some ornament around their ankles and around their wrists. They walked freely, easily, and with a certain grace. They held themselves very well. Most of them were laborers, but in the evening, as they went back to their homes, huts really, they would be laughing, teasing each other, and the young would be shouting and laughing far ahead of the older people. It was the end of the day, and they had been laboring heavily all day. They would wear themselves out very quickly, and they had built houses and offices where they would never live or ever work. All the important people went by there in their cars, and these poor people never even bothered to look who went by. The sun was setting behind some ornate building, in a mist that had been hanging about all day. It had no color, no warmth, and there wasn't a flutter among the flags of different countries. These flags too were weary. They were just colored rags, but what importance they had assumed. A few crows were drinking out of a puddle, and other crows were coming in to have their share. The sky was pale and ready for the night. Every thought, every feeling was gone, and the brain was utterly still. It was past midnight, and there was no noise. It was cold, and the moonlight was coming in through one of the windows. It made a pattern on the wall. The brain was very awake, watching without reacting, without experiencing. There was not a movement within itself, but it was not insensitive or drugged by memory. And all of a sudden, that unknowable immensity was there, not only in the room and beyond, but also deep in the innermost recesses, which was once the mind. Thought has a border, produced by every kind of reaction, and every motive shapes it as with every feeling. Every experiencing is from the past, and every recognition is from the known. But that immensity left no mark. It was there, clear, strong, impenetrable, and unapproachable, whose intensity was fire that left no ash. With it was bliss, and that too left no mark, for there was no experiencing it. It was simply there, to come and go, without pursuit, and recall. The past and the unknown do not meet at any point. The past and the unknown do not meet at any point. They cannot be brought together by any act whatsoever. There is no bridge to cross over, nor a path that leads to it. The two have never met and will never meet. The past has to cease for the unknowable, for that immensity to be. It was long before dawn, a clear starlit sky. There was a slight mist over the river, and the bank on the other side was just visible. The train was chugging up the grade to cross the bridge. It was a goods train, and these trains always puff up the incline in a special way, long, slow strokes of heavy puffs. Unlike the passenger trains, who have quick, short bursts and are on the bridge almost immediately. This goods train, in that vast silence, made a rattling roar, more noisy than ever before. But nothing seemed to disturb that silence in which all movements were lost. It was an impenetrable silence, clear, strong, penetrating. There was an urgency which no time could gather. The pale star was clear, and the trees were dark in their sleep. Meditation was the awareness of all these things, and the going beyond all these and time. The movement in time is thought, and thought cannot go beyond its own bondage to time and is never free. Dawn was coming over the trees and the river, a pale sign as yet, but the stars were losing their brilliancy, and already there was a call of the morning, a bird in a tree quite close by. But that immense silence still persisted, and it would always be there, though the birds and the noise of man would continue. We will end here for today.